Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Michaela Vrazdova, and I'm a Senior Associate at Scott Legal PC. Today, we are going to spend some time and we'll talk about how to move from a non-immigrant visa to a green card, and we will go over some common questions about this topic we get from our clients. A few things before we get started. Scott Legal is a full-service immigration law firm, and we assist individuals and companies with family-based, employment-based, and investor-based visas and green cards. And we do process a high number of different green card petitions. We'll continue to have these webinars, and we'll have at least 2 webinars a month on different visa topics. At the end of this webinar, we'll send you out a few things. We'll send you our comprehensive visa guide, that has a lot of information about the different green card categories. We'll send you out a link where you can sign up for additional webinars we'll have in the future. And we'll also send you a link to this webinar as it's being recorded. We'll also send you a link to our YouTube channel, and we encourage you to subscribe and hit the notification button, as we often upload immigration videos to our YouTube channel. And finally, we'll send you a link where you can set up a consultation with one of our attorneys and discuss your particular situation. So regarding panelists, today we are lucky to have Ian Scott, who is the founder of the firm and has a vast amount of experience processing different visas and green cards. Finally, for any question you may have during the presentation, please feel free to put it in the chat box or in the Q&A box, and we'll get to all questions as we talk or at the end of the webinar. So why don't we get started, Ian? So generally, why do people want to move from a visa to a green card?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Michaela. So I think that what we see here is that the visa process really is broken up into 2 different categories. So one category is what I'll call temporary visas, and the other category is permanent visas. So the permanent visas really are equivalent to green cards. So all of the other visas then are for a fixed duration of time. And I think that one of the key reasons that people, do want to get a green card rather than stay on a visa is that the certainty. So, the visa, maybe it's a visa that's issued for 3 years, like a TN visa, or maybe a visa that's like an E2 visa that's issued from anywhere from 3 months to 5 years, or other, another shorter term visa, like an O visa that might be issued for 3 years, or an L that might be issued for 1 or 3 years, depending on the type of L. People want certainty because the green card renewal process is more like a passport renewal process. You don't have to prove anything again. But when you're reapplying for a temporary visa, you often have to reprove your eligibility. And and then the other reason I think is that when you are moving, if your desire is to stay in the US full time, then the first step is to get a green card, because you have to get a green card. And once you have a green card, then you become a citizen. So if you marry a US citizen, you can become a citizen in 3 years. And for all other green card categories, it's going to be a 5-year process. So you have the green card for 5 years and you become a citizen. So it is a way to get that benefit. And then there are certain benefits just associated with green cards and being a citizen. Sometimes the school that you can go to, whether you can get a scholarship at that school, if you have a citizenship, you can vote. So a lot of benefits. I think, generally a lot of benefits associated with moving to that, if that's what the individual wants to do, if they see themselves living in the United States for a long time.
And Ian, how does the green card system in the US work in general? Does the US have a point-based system?
Yeah, great question. And, unfortunately, it doesn't. Most countries do have a system that's based on points, where you may accumulate points based on a number of things. So it could be that you accumulate points based on your age. It could be, the younger the better in terms of accumulation of points for immigration purposes. It could be that you accumulate points based on your education, how long you've been in the country, your work experience, things, whether you speak the language, things, in this case, English, in the US, all of those things can contribute to points in different countries, you know, and but unfortunately the U.S. doesn't have a system like that. The system is instead, and then what happens in those countries, if you accumulate a certain number of points, then you're eligible for permanent residency. So that's how Canada works, and many other countries in the world, that's how they work. But U.S. doesn't have that system. Instead, the U.S. system is just, there are a list of green card categories, and if you are eligible for them, you can apply. And those are really broken out into family-based green card categories and employment-based green card categories. There are others, but you know, generally speaking, those are the categories. And so, you know, you could have someone that's been on a visa for 20 years and you know, doesn't have a green card, right? So you know, whereas in most countries, one of the big things with respect to obtaining permanent residency might be the amount of time that you've been in the country, whether you went to school there and different things like that. So yeah, the system in the US, it is a little bit more difficult to move to the green card because if you're not eligible, if you don't fall into, or you're not eligible for a green card based on one of those criteria, then unfortunately, you know, you would have to remain on visas or not be able to stay in the US.
And Ian, you mentioned family-based green card. So generally, can any family member who is a US citizen or a green card holder sponsor you, or what are some common categories you see?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is very limited. It's going to be very close family members that might be able to sponsor you. And family-based green cards are broken out into two categories. So one category is immediate relative category, and that's defined as US citizen child 21 or older that is sponsoring a parent, or it's a US citizen that is applying for a green card for their spouse. So that category is the easiest one to utilize. It's called the immediate relative category. It's always current. There's always a green card available. And then the other categories are broken into preference categories and there are a number of them, but just for the purposes of this, you know, so one might be, I think it's F4, and that's US citizen sibling sponsoring, US citizen sponsoring a sibling, and another one might be US citizen parent sponsoring unmarried child over 21, right? So they're different categories, but each of those categories are delayed. There's only one category right now that is current. It's green card holder sponsoring spouse, but all of those categories are delayed because there isn't a green card available for them. So an individual can apply for those, but there would be a long wait. Like, so for example, the delay for the sibling category would be a 15 or so year wait because there aren't green cards available for them. So that's you know, that but you know, so it is limited in terms of the types of relatives that can sponsor. Like, you can't have an uncle or aunt or cousin or anything like that sponsor for you. Those categories don't exist. You'd have to go to the preference category listing and see if you know, if one of those categories works for you, and then if it did work for you, it likely would be a long delay.
Perfect. And when someone wants to apply for a green card, they can either adjust status in the US or they can apply at a consulate. Can you compare these two processes?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're in the United States, then you have the ability to do what's called adjustment of status. And when you adjust status, then that's if your category is current. So when you adjust status, then you are going to file an I-485 petition, and then when you file the I-485 petition, then you can file work authorization and travel authorization. So that's only if you're in the United States, and also if your category is current. But also, if you're in the United States or you're outside the United States, you can do what's called consular processing. And that, in essence, is saying that you plan on getting the green card at the consulate. So that's just a process that is, you know, and when you work with an immigration lawyer, they would decide which one works best for you. But those are really a quick summary of the two processes that are available.
And if someone files an adjustment of status petition in the US, once it's filed, can they work in the US?
Only if they can only work if they A, have underlying status, or B, the employment authorization that they filed has been approved.
Perfect, thank you. And you mentioned in the beginning that there are, you know, green cards based on, you know, family petitions, and then employment-based green cards. So can you go over in a little bit more detail through the employment-based green cards and kind of which category is the most popular?
Sure, sure. So one employment-based category that's gaining a lot of popularity is the national interest waiver, and that's a green card category under the EB2 category. And what that one is you basically are coming to the United States to engage in an endeavor that the government's going to find important, so that the endeavor has national importance. And there are a couple of other requirements related to this, but but national interest waiver is definitely one category to look at. And what I do is I'd encourage you to we do have national interest waiver webinars that we have done in the past and will continue to do. So you can either go to our YouTube channel and take a look at those webinars just to get an idea of the more specific requirements, or you can sign up for one of our future webinars. But the three requirements in a nutshell are that you're coming to the U.S. to do something that has substantial merit or is in the national interest, that you're well positioned to do it. So we look at how far along advanced it is, and that the government really feels that you're going to be able to do it. And then you just have to show factors that show that, why is it should the government waive the labor certification that Congress has put in place. So, but again, the national interest waiver is a whole webinar in itself. But definitely encourage you to look at the webinars that we have, or sign up for another webinar, because it is a green card category that we see often.
And can someone self-petition for the NIW, or do they need a company in the US?
You can. It can be either. That's a great thing about the NIW, is that you can self-petition for NIW. So we have some entrepreneurs that do NIW, or if you do have an employer, the employer can petition for you as well.
Perfect. And are there any investment-based green card options?
Sure. So another, green card that we do a number of, and in particular, we do a lot of E2 visas. So sometimes people are moving from E2, they're in the United States, they're moving from E2, and they want to continue through with an investor visa. And EB5 is one. So EB5 is a visa that's available if you invest 800,000 or 1,050,000, depending on where the business is located. And then you create 10 full-time jobs. So this is another area where it's definitely a complex area. And I'd say that, again, we have separate webinars on this topic as well, EB5 investment, but it is definitely an area that we see people moving to a green card if they have the financial resources to invest the 800 or 1,050,000 in a business enterprise that can hire 10 full-time workers. And those 10 full-time workers don't have to be hired right away, but you have several years to create those jobs, but that's another option for a green card. And
Ian, what if someone owns a company in the US? Can that company then sponsor the applicant for a green card?
Yeah, that's a great question. And another way that people can get a green card is through company sponsorship. So a lot of the time people might be here on an H-1B or a TN or some other type of visa, and the company decides that they want to sponsor them for the green card, and that would be under the EB2 or EB3 category. And that's fine. That can work. Usually companies there's no requirement for the individual to be working for the company before the company sponsors them, but usually they are, because it's a complex process and expensive process. So usually the company wants some familiarity with the person. So that is something that is definitely possible. But to answer your question, you can't do it if it's your own company or a company of a relative or something like that, right? A company could only sponsor you if it was kind of an independent company, and so that's often that's often something that we get with respect to ways people move to the way people move to a green card. We often see them moving to a green card based on based on a company sponsoring them for a green card.
Perfect. And so we discussed family-based green cards, employment-based green cards, and investment green cards. Are there any other green card options for people?
So another one is an EB1, like a green card option related to extraordinary ability. So This one, there are a list of 8 criteria that you look at, and you have to meet 3 of those. So it's people written about you, there are awards that you've won, you published in journals, you've had lead roles in organizations, you've have high salary. So there are a number of different criteria, and you have to meet 3 of them. So that's another way that people, sometimes people move to a green card, and it's another one. I'd point people to the webinar, like we have an extraordinary ability webinar that we do regularly, and as I said, for all these webinars, you don't even have to wait for the webinar. You could go to our YouTube channel and look at one of the old webinars on this particular topic, but that's definitely an option. That's definitely an option as well. And then there's some others that we don't see them nearly as much, like people that might apply for asylum, or we have a number of clients that win the diversity lottery. We've worked on a number of clients. People get lucky, that's for sure, and win the diversity lottery. That's something where you apply in October, and then they pick the applicants in May. And we have done a number of those, so that's another way that people move to a green card.
And what if someone qualifies for, like 2 or 3 different types of green cards? Can they file like multiple petitions?
They can. So we have, we have clients that, thinking of one example where we have a client that she filed a direct investment EB5 petition, and then she was approved, and she also is probably eligible for a national interest waiver petition, and she's still considering filing that. Now, the reason that people might do that is because the national interest waiver petition, if that was approved, they might give them a little bit more benefit, because the EB5 petition, it's when you get the green card, it's issued for 2 years, and then you have to file another petition to remove the conditions. So it's a much longer process. That's, the green card process is a much longer process. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, we definitely see people, like, it's almost like you can apply for as many green cards as you like, and when the one is available to you, then you can, you can decide to take it, right? So, or the one that's most beneficial. Like, so for example, we've had people that we had another client that was going through the EB5 process, and then she married a U.S. citizen. Well, that was very beneficial to her, because she was able to get the green card, and the benefit of if she wants to become a citizen faster, she A, doesn't have to go through the removal of conditions, and B, she can become a citizen within 3 years, right? So that's a significant benefit of that petition versus the petition of EB5. So, and she had both of them pending, but that's not a problem at all. I think it's in some ways it's common, because some people do want to hedge their bets, we'll say.
Great. Thank you so much, Ian, for all the information, and thank you everyone for joining us today, and have a good day.
Perfect. Great. Thank you very much, Michaela. Okay. Take care. Bye.